Good evening. You're very welcome to Culture Night. We're here tonight with Ella de Búrca, artist, currently living in County Laois, and myself, Kevin Kavanagh, gallerist from Port Laois, but working in Dublin. And we're going to have an informal chat with Ella, kind of an in-conversation piece about her practice and about her living in County Laois as well. Hi, Ella. Where did you go to college?
Um, so it seems crazy, but I graduated from NCAD 10 years ago from an MFA. Before that, I did a BA in IADT.
That's Dunleary, is it?
It's in Dunleary. Yeah, so it was quite nice to have both experiences of both colleges.
Yeah.
And
the MFA, that's Masters in Fine Art, is it?
Masters in Fine Art, yeah. Nice. So it was Philip Napier and Louise Walsh would kind of sit with me once a week and guide me or tear me to strips.
Yeah. And like, were you painting or making sculpture?
Sculptures.
Sculpture.
Yeah, it was MFA in sculpture. And then since then, and I guess this is what people who study sculpture always say, but I kind of work in drawing or performances or objects, like mixed media.
Yeah.
For me, there's no boundaries. It's kind of fluid, moving between. If I want to make a sculpture, I'll draw first, and so then the drawing could end up maybe potentially being the final piece.
Yeah, that's good. And it wasn't long after that then you were selected. I mean, you've been in a lot of shows in Ireland and abroad, and I just want to talk a bit about the Dublin Contemporary, which was controversial for all the wrong reasons, not about the art, but the way it was run and all that. But you were selected for that. That was a great achievement, wasn't it?
It was a huge honour at the time. Yeah, it was amazing. I was just out of the MFA, and Hoda Castro seen my work in a group show in the Lab.
And that's in the Lab is on
Foley Street.
Foley Street in Dublin 1,
yeah.
Beside Conley Station.
It was out and about with people singing by Michelle Brown was the name of the show.
Yeah.
And I think he saw my work in that, and then Sheena Barrett called me up to say, Hoda Castro wants your phone number to... But it's 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think this week, yeah. Because
I
remember at the time thinking, God, every 5 years, that's a long time to wait for the next Dublin Contemporary. And to think that we could be on our third one this week is just...
It's a shame that it didn't...
It's very sad, really. And as we were saying, like the event was fantastic. There was a great buzz about it, and the art was very good as well.
It was an amazing week. I remember all the galleries, your own gallery and the institutions all had staggered openings.
Yes.
And it was just so fun.
We showed German guy Ulrich Vogel, actually, to coincide with Dublin Contemporary. And it's interesting. I saw the work for the first time of an artist I've subsequently shown, Anna Bjerger, Swedish artist. And she was shown there, in a little room. She had a series of paintings. And there was a couple of artists from the gallery, Nevin Lahart.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that piece. He had the Dutch gold cans coming out of this volcano.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
It was amazing, yeah. And Amanda Coogan was in it as well. She had a performance.
Her room was near mine.
Oh, really? Yeah. But so that's a good start to your career then, isn't it? Like you're out of the blocks, as I say. You got a bit of notice.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a few other things, but then you moved to
Belgium.
Belgium, yeah.
Moved to Belgium.
Can you tell us about that?
After Dublin Contemporary, I went to do a residency in Canada called Banff for 8 weeks, and then straight after that, another residency in Belgium, in Antwerpen, for 6 months. And I really liked it there. Yeah. There's loads of galleries, loads of...
What part of Canada is that in, Banff?
Oh, Banff is in Alberta.
Alberta.
Yeah.
So is that in the middle, or is it towards the coast, or?
It's bang in the middle of Canada.
Bang in the middle. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The beginning of the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean Lynch went there as well, and there's a lot of Irish artists have gone there, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been
Sonia as well, Sonia Shield.
Yeah.
And you learned a lot there, did you, in Banff? Or
I learned a lot in Banff. Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a group residency, so there was like 20 odd young artists, all led by this Icelandic performance artist called Ragnar Kjartansson.
Wow. Good
And
name.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really fun. It was like meeting other like peers and hanging
Yeah.
out 24/7 with each other, and then being given so many facilities like a studio,
Wow.
a dark room, woodwork shop.
Wow.
It was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. And then from there, I went to another residency in Antwerp,
Yeah.
and then I hung around for a while in Belgium.
Okay.
Um,
What part of Belgium were you in?
I was in Antwerp,
Antwerp,
and
sorry.
then I
Yeah.
moved to Brussels.
Was it?
Yeah, and then around that time, Pota Castro, who curated the Dublin Contemporary, had a pavilion in the Venice Biennale and asked me to participate in that. So I made a huge sculpture, probably the biggest sculpture I've ever made so far. It's 20-meter high
Wow.
sculpture, with the help of my dad and my uncle.
Really, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
We collected
impressive, What was it made of?
tractor tire tubes.
Wow.
And so like my dad is not an art man.
Yeah.
He didn't study art, and
Yeah.
and it's always this lovely conversation when you ring him up. I'm like, Dad, I need to collect tractor tire tubes, and
Wow.
there's never a why
Yeah.
or what are you trying to say with this? Maybe it won't work. Maybe it'll look stupid. He doesn't. He's like, okay, all right, I'll call your uncle. He knows a trucking company, so yeah, we collected like 30 tractor tire tubes and then shipped them to Venice.
Shipped them, yeah. Wow. Do you mind, what did you make of with the tractor tire tubes?
I made a giant tower. So between the floor and the ceiling, in the space, it was 20-meter high space, we wedged the tractor tire tubes and inflated them so they were like stuck.
Yeah.
And then you could kick it or jump.
But you couldn't move it, could you?
It was like stuck, solid in there. Yeah.
Was anyone tempted to burst it around, do you think? Or
they could have hit it. They could have hit it if they wanted to. Nobody thankfully burst it. But yeah.
And that was part of a group show that Hota had curated.
Yeah.
So that's how the art world works, isn't it? He likes your work for Dublin Contemporary, and it's a follow on from that, because every artist, I reckon, I had a conversation with Declan Clark. I don't know if you know Declan, an Irish artist. But he was on a residency in the Irish College, or the Centre Cultural Irlandais.
In Paris.
As it's called now,
Yeah.
And I did a show there to celebrate either their 15 or their 20 years, I can't remember. A group show from the gallery. But I met Declan, and he was saying every artist needs about 9 people on their side.
Yeah.
So that can be collectors, maybe 2 collectors, curators, maybe 2, writer, maybe 2 as well. That's 6. Now we're up to 6 now. But maybe another artist or something.
Yeah.
Maybe
a patron.
A patron, definitely. But the collectors are kind of the patrons, patron maybe separate.
Yeah.
And maybe a gallerist in there as well, maybe 2,
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I often say that to people, or the artists that I work with in the gallery, that you need more than just, say, the 1 or the 2.
Yeah.
So you've been, you recently sold a piece to the Arts Council of Ireland, didn't you?
Yes.
So that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a big deal for me. Yeah, it was great.
Just tell us about that, if you don't mind.
Defiance is the name of the work, and I originally made it in the fire station. I was doing a day residency, 6-month day residency there, and
when was that, Ella?
That was the fire station studios in Dublin.
Yeah, I know. But when?
Oh, when?
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
That was like 2015.
Oh yeah.
2015, and then 2 years later, it was supposed to be shown in Istanbul, and that show got cancelled. But it's a tile that I found from the 1930s, when there was a trade war between Ireland and the UK.
Right.
And during that time, it was difficult to get products that came from the UK, and so the Irish state at the time called Saoirse Éireann started putting these subliminal messages on certain objects, stamping the word defiance on post boxes and stamps. I've heard that they did that, but definitely on these roof tiles. And so your whole roof would be lined with defiance, 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 defiance. And I guess it was this like, I mean, at the time, the trade war, the poverty was as high as it was during the famine.
Yeah.
But it was this like final push towards sovereignty. If we win this, the country will be fully independent away from this foreign governance. And I found it fascinating. But I found it fascinating because it's like the complete inverse in 2014 when I found the tile of Ireland. It's like licking at the heels of the EU.
Yes, Europe,
And it's kind of just, and how that inverse of ideals can happen in a society. So I turned the roof tile into a floor tile, and I covered the floor of the entrance of the gallery. And so
and where was that? That was in Belgium, was it?
It was shown in Kunstverein Stuttgart.
Stuttgart, okay.
And then later it was shown in Nest in Den Haag, and both setups the same. So the entrance to the space is covered by a large amount of tiles, I think it's like 16 meters in one and 20 square meters in the other.
Yeah.
And you, the viewer, have to walk on it. You have to. If you want to see the rest of the show, you have to walk across it.
But you're not allowed to break the tiles, eh? You have to.
Well, you have to break the tiles. So that's the crux of the piece in a way, is that you, the viewer, have to walk on the art and break it.
Wow.
And I guess that's like, it's something that I've always like been interested in my practice, is like whether this artwork makes you feel invited, part, like at home, or whether it makes you feel alienated.
So it's ironically, it's quite accessible then if you can walk on it and break it.
Yeah, and then over the course of the exhibition, like paths would start to form where people had walked along, and other people would follow that path, and then kids would come and they'd jump on the ones that aren't broken, and they're made to break. That the point of it is also this like stamping on the ideals of your forefathers in a way as well, but just this like this insular thinking at the time in the 1930s, this wanting to be cut off from the rest of the world, and kind of stamping down on that too, I suppose.
That'll be interesting to see when the Arts Council decide to show that. Actually.
So the Arts Council own the piece, and they can install it wherever they want. And the only crux is that it has to be a place where people have to walk across it, like a threshold. So it has to be broken.
And in fairness to the Arts Council, I know they got a lot of money, an extra 50 million for the pandemic, but they have been really good to artists, haven't they? I mean, they bought a lot of work.
Yeah, over the last year and a half.
Yeah, they bought a lot of work for me as well, which is great.
Yeah.
And they've given out a lot of bursaries as well, haven't they? Like a lot of the artists I work with have received bursaries from the Arts Council.
I've also received bursaries. Yeah. I would like to ask you about your gallery.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So how long have you been at the Kevin Kavanagh Gallery?
I think it's 27 years, but started out in '94 as the Joe Rain Gallery with a couple of friends, and it was only meant to last 6 months, and got a space just beside the Stock Exchange in Temple Bar, and we did a 6-month program, and the thing was there that basically you could literally walk in off the street and get a show. There was no kind of quality control as such, you know.
Yeah.
And so we had some really terrible shows and some great shows as well.
Okay.
And so I spent 5 years doing that.
I hope you have archives, like photos and things.
There was a few, there's a few.
Good.
It was a lovely space actually.
Okay.
It was a two-room Victorian building. It was lovely, the wooden floor. And actually there was a safe in the main room. You know, that was there for years, 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And then one day I decided, you know what, I'm going to get rid of the safe. And we got rid of it. Got 5 guys in. Took the safe, because it was on a height.
Yeah.
We took it off the cupboard or whatever it was, and took it out, and then down the stairs and everything. It was such a big deal, like, you know.
Yeah.
And getting that safe out was the best thing I ever did.
Okay.
Because we were always making exhibitions, or the artists were, and we were always working around that stupid safe.
Yeah.
Because there was an old bank, you see, anyway.
Yeah.
But I learned my trade as such there, because you can't go to college to become a gallerist, you know.
Yeah.
You just pick it up as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about it was, I remember meeting someone there, and they mentioned that word gallerist, and I'd never heard it before.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of makey up word, you know, it's a new one. I think it came from Germany or somewhere, because in Germany they have this culture of galleries, you know, proper contemporary galleries where people go and look at exhibitions and buy art, and the person running the gallery works with artists, and it's like it's an established thing. Yeah. But in Ireland we don't really have that. It's a bit more kind of hokey cokey. It's a bit more made up, if you know. Mm-hmm. It's getting better now. It has gotten a lot better. Yeah. But when I started, it was like just making it up as you go along.
But your gallery is now recognised as one of the galleries in Ireland. Like if you're coming to Dublin to look at art, Kevin Kavanagh Gallery would be in that list.
It would,
like go and look at it.
Yeah, it would, yeah. I mean, when I moved from Temple Bar, I decided to change the name to my own name, just to try and take it take it serious and run it as a business. Yeah. Not as a business, but I found a lot of the artists actually wanted representation. Yeah. It's not like it just evolved naturally or organically, and then I spent 10 years over in Great Strand Street, and it was a lovely little space, and we did some great shows, mostly painting, and there were kind of installations, like you're an installation artist, you work in installation, but the funny thing is, the gallery would have been known for paintings, which is fine because paintings sell, you know, and that's how you survive and you do your thing. But most of the shows were actually installations of paintings, in the sense that the artist made the work for the space. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Rather than banging away in the studio there, making a load of stuff.
But the show that you have on at the moment, there's a beautiful installation in the centre and the paintings around it as well. So I guess,
and they're still doing that now. Yeah. That's interesting because that's Richard Prophet's show in the new space, Yeah. But what happened in the old space, which is on Strand Street, the artists outgrew it, the ones I was working with, because it was so small. Okay. But it was good. Yeah. And our numbers are really good as well. I mean, I think in 2006 we sold nearly 500,000. Wow. Which is crazy. Yeah. For a tiny space.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Then unfortunately moved across the river to a brand new world-class architect design gallery. Yeah. At totally the wrong time, you know.
Of the recession.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was September. Moved in September 2008. Okay. Just a few days before the bank guarantee came in. Wow. So it was terrible. Yeah.
Gosh. I mean, what a challenge, and yet you've overcome it. You're still thriving today. So.
Well, I was very lucky. I had some good patrons behind me. Yeah. So that's what I was saying to you earlier on about an artist needing.
Yeah, 9 people.
Yeah, and gallerist needs the same. There was a core there of about 5 patrons. Yeah. We basically put the money into the gallery. Okay. And left the money there, thank God. Yeah. So that it just, and some of the artists left money in the gallery as well. Yeah. And thankfully they've all been paid back now, which is great. But it's a two-way street with I find running the gallery. You're depending a lot on it's a three-way street actually, between collectors, artists and the gallery, you know.
I say it's a relationship, right? You have to be able to work with each other. You have to trust one another. You have to inspire, maybe. You have to be inspired to work with this person. So like for me, I have people who I've worked with over the course of the last 10 years, and it is an ongoing, it's like a relationship. So I don't know if I've got 9 just yet.
Yeah, I like to know, maybe 8 or 9, but no, you're right. It is a relationship, and generally speaking, most of the time you have to like the person as well. I find that, yeah.
Most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, you can put up sometimes, like,
Yeah.
you know, but because it is a relationship, you kind of have to like them. And
Hmm.
there's been, in times over the years, there's been a few people that you don't get on with, you don't like, and so you kind of part ways then, you know.
Yeah.
Even if they're hugely successful
Yeah.
commercially, like,
Well,
I find that,
that's the art world, that we live in this kind of system that is called a professional system, and
yeah,
yet it really is, as far as I can see, built and valued more on, yeah, on getting along with
yeah,
one another,
yeah,
and having understanding and empathy. That we're not all millionaires, we're
yeah.
not all like rolling in it. We're all trying our best in a certain sense.
It's kind of a cliche, but like, and it can be used to beat artists, unfortunately, but artists don't really do it for the money, you know. And that obviously can be used against them
Mm.
because then they think artists don't need money or are not interested in money. You
Yeah,
know, that kind of a,
yeah.
um,
But if it wasn't for the Arts Council or Fingal County Council
yeah,
or Laois County Council, I would have no money
yeah.
at
Tell us
all.
about, you're on this, is it a new program in Laois County Council?
Platform 31.
Yeah, what is that?
Platform 31 is an initiative by all of the county councils. They all got together, all 31 of them, I guess, because there's like a few extra in Cork and in Dublin. And they chose one artist from each county council.
Yeah,
And so I very luckily, I guess, and thankfully got to be selected for Laois.
yeah. You're not
It's
from County Laois, are you?
originally, no, I'm
No.
from Dublin,
Yeah,
but after the pandemic, or just before the pandemic, sorry, Anthony and I moved back home.
to
Yeah,
Laois.
we moved back from Brussels. We didn't.
Lovely.
It kind of, the pandemic shook a lot of foundations, and for ours, it realigned our value system, and we decided it was time to come back to Ireland. We never moved away to be away forever anyway. So,
Yeah.
Um,
And you like it in
I love it.
Yeah, good.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
It's very different to Brussels.
Yeah.
I was saying earlier that, we used to live above a bar and a shop.
Yeah.
So you never need to go further than
And you
10
live in the
meters.
country now, don't you? It's
And
quite rural.
now we live in the sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
it's a big
20-minute
change, yeah.
drive to the shops.
Yeah.
But we have a vegetable garden, and I'm slowly trying to make a studio space, and just this idea of putting in roots.
Yeah. Very good.
Literal roots and
Yeah.
metaphorical roots.
Yeah, yeah. And when I went over to see you there during the week in the studio, you had these beautiful watercolors. They're plants from the garden, are they? Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were there, and I was going around trying to find all the different wild flowers and herbs that were growing. That I'm just researching them. What would this do if I ate it? There's like medicinal properties or health properties, and then creating the watercolors of these different plants, and also like mashing up the plants and using them in the painting as well. So it's kind of a representation of the plant, but also of like the plant is representing itself in a sense.
Because like drawing is a big part of your practice, isn't it? So you would draw. You had a lot of drawings out there on the table, and this is part of your research for your PhD. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm entering the final year of practice-based PhD.
Wow.
I don't have to write a thesis. I have to have enough art that is the same equivalent as a thesis.
Yeah.
And so
that's a lot, I think. Is it? Would that be a lot?
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to go to the printers next week, and I have about 1,000.
And where are you doing the PhD? It's in Brussels, is it?
It's in KU Leuven.
Where's that?
In Belgium.
In Belgium.
Yeah, it's where the Earls flew to.
Oh wow.
The flight of the Earls in like the 16th century.
Wow.
When they left Ireland, they ended up in Leuven, or Louvain,
Louvain,
it was called, and set up the Catholic College there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where you're doing it, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the
impressive.
PhD is about how we engage with art, how we look, who's we as well, who's looking at it, who's it for.
That's a really good. Who is it for?
Right.
It's interesting. Sonia Shield mentioned to me, like, we did a show recently. It was a very good show, I think because of the pandemic, things have got a bit quiet.
Mm.
And she was just saying to me, like, where's the audience, Kevin? Like,
Yeah.
and who is the audience, you know?
Mhm.
Because you're doing this thing anyway. And my thing was always wanted more people to see. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah.
not
Yeah.
doing it for just for an elite few or a.
Yeah.
You want it to be kind of not so much mainstream, but you want it
Yeah.
accessible and
Oh yeah, yeah.
public and
Yeah.
yeah,
Like GAA.
like the GAA. Yeah, they have it sorted.
Yeah,
They
but
seem to have it sorted, don't they?
it was around the 1890s, wasn't it? As part of the national plan that the founding fathers decided to start reteaching Gaelic football and hurling. It had kind of been forgotten, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Gaelic Athletics Association
that's
was
right.
created,
Yeah,
and now you have people talking about like hurling and. Well, you walk around Laois, every kid is wearing hurling
yeah.
GAA shorts and
GAA is
holding
big in
a
Laois.
hurley.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah. Particularly where you part of County Laois where you are near Rathdowney and
Yep.
Errol and Clough and all. That's
Yep.
big hurling. Balacolla. That's all hurling country.
Yeah, they won the Laois finals.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's impressive.
But I would love if, and I think it's well within the realm of
Because
possibility.
art and sport, they're kind of similar, aren't they? Like
Yeah,
they should, you know.
I think so. I was
I think
saying this
so.
to you the other day,
Yeah.
like if you had Sean Lynch and Sonia Shield in a
Yeah.
show together, that you
Yeah.
could have that type of commentary of like
Yeah.
how are they going to play off against one
Yeah.
another, how are their pieces going to
Yeah.
interact. It's what goes
That'd
through
be-
my head
Yeah.
when I'm on my way to see a show.
Yeah. I think that. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah,
Sometimes
one can.
I sometimes think maybe might be living in the wrong country, but what I mean by that is, like say in Germany. I'm not just saying I don't know Germany very well. I've been there a few times, but they have that culture. They have that context. In Ireland, it's kind of different. Like you're right, the GAA is huge here.
Yeah,
And
but there is
the
a
arts are kind of far behind.
there's a kind of
But
an unspoken notion that arts are for an elite, posh kind of
yeah,
snobby
that's
sect.
that's going back to the kind of Anglo-Irish thing. Yeah, I mean, and like I would have thought that growing up in Portlaoise as well. Like I'm from Portlaoise and went to school in the CBS around the corner in Tower Hill, and didn't study art, but art definitely then was for posh people, no question of it, and for people who spoke with a funny accent as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went to funny enough, a very English college like Trinity College, and having access to galleries in Dublin like the Douglas Hyde, but particularly the National Gallery of Ireland. I remember as a student going in there for free and walking around. I thought this is great.
Yeah.
Like and then meeting artists and all that stuff. But it's another cliche, but art should be for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone who's interested anyway, and there's a lot of interest, I find.
I think there's work being done now, like by the county councils.
Yeah.
Each county council has an arts officer,
Yeah.
and there's like the Dunamaise Arts Centre here
Which
in
is
Laois, which is where we
great
are.
facility, yeah.
Really trying to, I suppose, educating the children,
Yeah.
bringing the
Yeah.
children into
Yeah.
the arts
Yeah,
centres and getting them
absolutely.
used to it,
Yeah.
and talking and. But children always often have the best response to pieces because they don't have that kind of hang up.
They've no filter as such to.
Yeah.
They can just feel it. They can just respond and they can react. And
Yeah.
they're great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Just thinking of Nevin's work, Nevin Lahart. Children always love his work. Like, and even Richard's show in the gallery. Like, there's been a few kids in it. They love it.
Yeah.
I think it's always a good sign
I think it's
for the artist as well. Like,
I agree, because it's. I don't think that there is a. Often there's a conception that there's a like some secret code or message, and I remember reading. Sean Lynch had this story that I went and researched again myself, and 'cause it's fascinating. But I think it was the final Rusk, where an artist from the US, whose name I can't think of, had asked all of the political leaders in the world for their profile portrait in order to paint. And so he asked Charlie Haughey, and Charlie Haughey sent him his portrait. And then on the opening at Rosk, Charlie Haughey went with his kind of posse of advisors, and the artist had painted each world leader with their head with the animal of the body of an animal.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And Charlie Haughey was a dog.
Was he a dog? That's
a dog.
Right. Yeah.
And they kind of stood around. Like, he didn't leave, although I think he was kind of embarrassed. He thought it would be a portrait of him.
Bet he was.
But they still stayed there and had a conversation about what type of dog he was and whether he's a hunting dog or
That's funny you're talking about portraiture, because I worked with Mick O'Dea a lot over the years on portraits, and we did a show here in Dunamaise as well. And Mick he's a great portrait painter. He's one of our best. But he among others started this process of portraiture can be for anyone. Just to take the grandiosity out of it, take all that, like you said, Charlie Haughey or someone, take all that out of it, so you can get your portrait done. He can, And we did that with a show in 2004 called Audience. Okay. We're just friends of the gallery and stuff, ordinary people, like just regular people. And the guy who owns the cafe here, Cafe Latte, Ken McPherson's in it. You know what I mean? So it's for everyone. Yeah. And I think portraiture. We did a few shows with that, and I was always kind of like, still today in Ireland, like the portraiture thing is quite, it's quite stuffy, and it's like, and academic, and but in fairness to Mick and a few other people, they're trying to kind of break that barrier down, so whereby, anyone can have their portrait done, and it's a good thing to do, because it's a snapshot in time, and it's kind of there and it's done.
Yeah. No, it is. I think it is that conversation about who is this for, and trying to move it away from being for a small elite. Yeah. In 2013, I made a piece called Haha Harcourt Road, and it was a private piece of land near Camden Street that's fenced off, and the property developer was kind of waiting for the, I guess, price of the land to go up again, and in the meantime, he commissioned, with the curator Jonathan Carley, commissioned different artists to put an artwork in the space, and that
was decent of him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was all very, we were very well treated. Yeah. And so I was asked to do something. So I worked with the fence. There was a fence to kind of block it off. Yeah. I contacted the fence company and asked them if they could loan me the same fence. Again and again, and they agreed very kindly. They gave me hundreds of meters of the same fence, and every day I'd put a new fence with the same fence, a new layer of fence inside the fence. Wow. Until by the end of the month and a half, the whole space was filled with fences. It was entirely fenced in area. Wow. But it was in order to respond to that, who is this art for? If it's behind a fence, do people, is the gate open or closed to the majority of people? Who's the audience? And it was fun. That's fun. It was very funny. Yeah. I've also made, that was kind of a nice response to that question, but at the end of the HISC in Belgium, I did a piece where when the viewer enters they enter the gallery opposite the door, I had this tiered seating like the seating here. Oh, I saw that. And actors sitting on the tiered seating, and I told them to act as if they were watching the worst show they'd ever seen. Like, they were super bored. Yeah. They had their phones out. They were chatting to one another. They were kind of rolling their eyes. Yeah. And when the viewer entered, the person entered the gallery, they would just stare at them. Wow. It was, and there was a light so that the person, when they enter, they suddenly are on a stage, and they had to walk across this kind of stage past this audience of people staring at them to get to the rest of the show. It was kind of a dark comedy.
Yeah.
And you know, people enjoyed it. I think the majority of people that I talked to found it very funny.
And they wouldn't have a clue or have no idea before they went in that these people were there, would they? Or
No, they just knew they were going
Yeah.
to see the group
Yeah,
show,
yeah,
and
brilliant.
as soon as they entered the door, they suddenly
Was there anything to see apart from the actors sitting on
no.
the... Oh,
The door would be here, and the actors would be sitting there, and
yeah,
then
just walk
you
in.
kind of have to walk over
Oh,
that
yeah,
way and,
brilliant.
and off,
God,
off
how
stage and see the
uncomfortable.
rest.
Yeah.
So some people, it was only for the opening
Yeah.
night and finishing night, and some people would enter and look, and then very quickly clock that the rest of the show's over and just kind of run
Oh, yeah.
over that
Yeah.
way. Some people would come in and kind of start to just take a moment,
Yeah.
enjoy the attention, and slowly slink off. Some people sat down beside the actors
Really?
and started watching other people coming in.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It
So-
worked in a Belgian context because I think the people who were coming to see the show knew all about the show. They were expecting to come and be challenged.
Yeah, and there was a show in the other room, was there, to see, or was that?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
giant group
yeah,
show,
yeah.
and so
So this is like a little introduction.
yeah,
Wow.
this is the
That's clever.
entrance into the group
I
show.
like that.
It was it was very funny.
Yeah.
I found it hilarious, and I think that's important when you're making a work of
Yeah.
art that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just like when you're working in collaboration with someone that you
When you're
enjoy it.
putting on a show, installing it, and
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for chatting to me this afternoon.
You're very welcome, Ella. It's been a real pleasure, and I wish you well in your career and living in County Laois as well.
Thank you.
Hope that goes well for you.
And
Sure
all the
it will.
best for you as well.
Thanks a million, Ella. And thanks for everyone for watching.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye.